Hey everyone, I want to talk about a topic that I believe is covered incorrectly and almost through the lens of complete bias, and in a very similar to how a hypochondriac views a serious health condition such as blood pressure problems, anything in cardiovascular disease or cancer. And I want to talk about alcohol and anxiety and OCD. I'm also going to talk about marijuana, other types of drugs, and potentially even pornography as well. Why I think we shouldn't be as black and white on these things. Why it's so easy to label them as problematic. I just got off the phone with someone. I was going to make a video on self-reassurance and why talking back to thoughts is not good. But I wanted to switch the topic because this individual brought up a very good point where he said, we're living in an era where people now are very, very convinced that alcohol is poison for you, or it's bad for you. And social media gurus and even the most well-intentioned neurophysiologists and neuroscientists, when you watch their content, the big YouTubers, you all know who I'm talking about, I would not want to live my life like them. I'm not saying what they talk about is not incorrect, but there's such minuscule problems when you... I could see it. I see a... That was a pure ADHD. I'm like, there's something there. I'm going to get made fun of for that for fucking ever. And again, these are well-intentioned individuals, but, was on this person's channel earlier doing a video on call, and it was basically why tap water is bad, and it had 1 million views. This is insanity. This is pure insanity and not needed. Most people do not struggle with alcoholism. Most people are not abusing hard drugs. A lot of people do, but most don't. So before I go any further, please subscribe, hit that like button down below. Let me know what you think. And this is going to be this topic will probably have a lot more kickback than some of the other topics, but I'm going to explain my reasoning behind it, and whether you agree or not, that will be your decision. Alcohol is not bad for you. It's not bad for you in the way that people say. This is simply incorrect. It's bad for some people. It's not bad for you. It's like saying opioids are bad for you. They're not. They help cancer patients. My dad died of stage 4 cancer. He took Oxy 80s and morphine when he was doing chemo radiation. It helped him ease his pain. Most people abuse Oxycontin and heroin. And fentanyl is very bad for you, but it's used in other cases as well for other things that can be beneficial. Correct conversations happen through balance and understanding that you can't compare apples and oranges. The way you look at marijuana will be different than the way you look at meth. The way you look at alcohol will be different than the way you look at fentanyl. They're not across the board. The other problem is with, say, alcohol, individuals who have struggled with alcoholism. You can always be wary about what someone says. I'm very, very adamant about this. If someone has struggled with an addiction, I really struggle with adult websites. I don't watch them anymore as many young individuals had. I don't think adult websites are inherently bad. I think they're very problematic for most people, but I wouldn't say they're bad. Can most people abuse them? Sure, but I wouldn't say they're inherently bad. Because I've talked to many people who, they can watch adult websites once or twice a month and not really have a problem with it and stay faithful in their relationships, etc. Again, most people struggle with that. Alcohol has a lot of great benefits. Glasses of wine, maybe an old-fashioned at Christmas or whatever holiday you celebrate, when you go out with friends. I can go to a music festival like I am in March to Ultra. Can get made fun of for that too. Been going for 10 years. And I can go there and get completely fucking annihilated and drink numerous amounts of alcohol. Not the smartest decision, not the best thing for your body. When I leave there, I don't think about alcohol again. I have a couple beers a month. Maybe I have 1 or 2 beers a week sometimes if it's just like that time of the year, or I go out. My 20% battery just came on. But to say that alcohol is inherently bad for OCD and anxiety is simply incorrect. Now, I'm usually combated with, you don't know my story, and that's not true, it helped me. Just by the way you're saying it, I can almost guarantee what you're saying is a compulsion. Just because I work in this sector more than most people, and I have a very good, keen eye into how people say things. It's not just what you do that tells me what you believe. It's how you say it and your tone that shows me. You know what, Nick? I'm not sure I agree with that. That's a good point. I cut alcohol. I think it was a good decision. Maybe not as compulsive of, you're wrong, you're an idiot, I'm right. That's a rigid belief. 99% of the time, it's coming from compulsive avoidance. If you struggle with alcoholism and you use it as a binging factor to escape alcohol, that still doesn't mean you struggle with alcoholism. This is a very important point. There's a difference between binge drinking to avoid, which is very problematic, but then the person might be able to balance it back. They have to test it and see. I remember Rob in the beginning when we were talking about the adult websites. He goes, do you think you could balance it? And I tell him, listen, what happens? I do that. I end up cheating every time and I go out. He's like, okay, you're probably going to have to get rid of it. That was a Nick decision. Doesn't matter what Jimmy, Sally, Susie, anyone else does, Ryan, what they do with adult websites. That doesn't bother me. It's what worked for Nick. Now, you might use that same thing against me when it comes to alcohol. Well, that's great, Nick. I know that you're saying that, but I quit it, and this is why it was good. And then I'm like, okay, have you ever drank Rebel Vodkas at 6 o'clock in the morning? No. Did you drink more than maybe a couple Fridays a month? No. Why don't you try having a cocktail with your friends? No, it's so bad for you. It kills you. Blah, blah, blah. That is the problem right there. I'm not encouraging you to drink. I'm encouraging you to think about what you do without needing complete certainty on that. Now, marijuana can be used the same way, but I would have to imagine that marijuana from an avoidance behavior could potentially be more problematic since there's not so much of a social component to it. Usually when people are drinking, not always, of course, they're going out with friends, they're going to a bar, they're doing XYZ, they're going out for an event. Again, this is just not a right or wrong thing. I'm just comparing from a bird's eye view. It takes no intelligence whatsoever to go on the YouTube channel and say, I struggle with alcoholism. I was a severe alcoholic. Alcohol is poison and it kills you. That is a very bad way to go about it. That is very problematic. And you got to be really careful about the people you're listening to. I love me some Joe Rogan. I love me some Huberman every once in a while. All the big names out there. But the majority of the stuff is hype to keep you in. It's not based on the realities of life, no matter what the research says. Your life is not lived in the conclusions of a research study. I've been saying this for years now, and I'll say it again. Your life is not lived in the conclusions of a research study. Take training for an example, okay? I don't care about overtraining, volume if I'm doing too much, if I train things too often, if I'm doing too much cardio, if I'm not, I just work out and eat and have fun. And that's probably the best thing for me because of my addictive personality and my severe body dysmorphia. Again, I have to say this over and over because I know the rebuttals I'm going to get. People are already not listening to what I'm saying. I know because I did this my whole life. You already heard, no, alcohol's bad for you, and you're not listening, and you're just listening to rebuttal. Don't do that. That's a very bad that's a very bad way to have a conversation. It's a very easy way to have a conversation in a bad way when you're just shutting people down. Really take the time to listen to what I'm saying here. I see this day in and day out. Cheating fears, fears of losing control, health-related fears, cirrhosis of the liver, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. I never could say the word properly, but alcoholic dementia, Korsakoff or something, Korsakovich, I think it's what it is. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, so all those things. But there are people out there where I give strict rules where you got to cut the drinking for a while. And I have people I work with where I say, you can never drink again. You struggle with alcoholism. You, my friend, girl, guy, you struggle with alcoholism. Marijuana, again, the same thing. If you're in the midst of suffering and you're upping your marijuana intake, that is a slippery slope. If you're in the midst of suffering and you're upping your alcohol intake, like for me, right? It used to drive my wife nuts. We go out to dinner. I'd have half a Corona. It would like be right below the neck. She would say, you just wasted $7. I was like, yeah, I like the taste of it when I'm having my steak or something, whatever. So, but when I started suffering, I started to up that more. That was a problem. So it's a case-by-case scenario. Blanket statements are not good for most of these type of things when drugs or alcohol is involved. Sometimes it means more so than other. You're not going to see me sit here and balance heroin. I'm talking about alcohol. I'm talking about marijuana. I'm talking about adult websites. Yes, they're also socially accepted more. And no, it doesn't mean they're inherently not bad for you. I'm just saying that when people say alcohol is bad for you, you could pull up 1,000 studies, all the stuff about red wine and all sorts of stuff. And then, you know, you go and watch a area like a Blue Zone in Sicily, and you watch these people on Zac Efron's show, and they're drinking. This guy's 99 years old, drinking wine as like his daily structure, walking through the, you know, the streets to go to a bar. And he's like, where are we going? He's like, to get a vino, whatever, you know. I'm the worst Italian ever. I don't know what the heck that shit's called. I'm an American Italian. I'm an American. I'm not Italian. So, but it's the same principle, okay? It's the rigidity in the statements. I'm going to be honest. Most of the stuff that you're going to hear on Rogan and Huberman are very bad for your mental health because they're too rigid. If this ever finds their way to Rogan or mental or them, they're going to be like, A, he's a nobody, totally fine. B, he's an idiot, also totally fine, possibly correct. But C, as Momen says elegantly, it's one of my favorite things that Momen says. I rarely, if ever, have met people who are severe followers of those big people, and I've read all Peterson's books, but Peterson, Rogan, Huberman, the Tates of the world, and the Hormozis of the world. Again, pros and cons for each of these people. The people that follow them the most tend to be very rigid, black and white, and have a lot of anxiety and depression. And I'll say no more. Again, this is nothing against them as humans. It's about the reality of what works and what doesn't. Scaring people into saying all alcohol is bad is a problem. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. A little bit different of a topic. It's important. I've been around addiction my whole life. There's a lot of people I'm friends with who are dead. There are a lot of people who I'm friends with who are recovered and really need to stop. There's a lot of people like me who have addictive personalities but never went into a full-blown addiction. So they have to be aware. So look for the What's Up link down below. Let me know what you think. Hope to hear from you soon. As always, enjoy the rest of your day.